Okay, this is lecture 11 and we are discussing here. Sorry. This is lecture 11 here. I think this course cannot be finished without mentioning Kiran and Kana. That's very important. And it is said Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has written so many books. He has written commentary on Bhagavatam, Saradarshini. In fact, he has also written a commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He has written a commentary there, and the commentary's name is anyway, that I will mention in the next class. But the commentary's name is Bhakti Sar Pradarshini Tika. But yet he chooses to write this small book which can be printed on a pamphlet, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. But it is said in Gaudiya Vaishnav Samaj, I mean to say, he's written many other books, Ragvartma Chandrika and Prem Sampot and so on, and he has written Sankalp Kalpataru. He has written so many books, the list keeps on going. But these three books of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they are jewels of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And it is said it is famous in Gaudiya Vaishnav Samaj, Kiran Bindu Kana E Teen Niye Vaishnava Pana. This verse is very famous. It is said, if you have these three books of Vishwanath Thakur, Ujmal Leelamani Kiran, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu and Bhagavad Amrit Kana, then E Teen Niye, you just go in the market and buy them. How much will it cost? E Teen Niye Vaishnav, how much will it cost? Pana, it will just cost 1 paisa. And what you will become by reading this? You will become a Vaishnav. Now, what are these other two books? I just want to discuss this in this lecture. I am not going to discuss the contents because that's the topic of another course. But the point is, these three books are Ujmal Leelamani Kiran, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu and Bhagavad Amrit Kana. Now, what are these books, by the way? Now, Rupa Goswami wrote a book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion. But what he did was, he didn't describe Madhurya Ras in details in that book. All other rasas he did. Shan Dase Vatsale Sakhe. And the reason he told that, well, I am going to write another book which will be part 2 of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where I will discuss Madhurya Ras, because many people are not qualified to hear Madhurya Ras. And part 2 of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu was Ujmal Leelamani. He named that book as Ujmal Leelamani. Now that book is really tough to read, very tough to read. There are so many names, so many divisions of gopis, so many divisions of Krishna. Krishna as a hero, Dhirodha, Dhiro Lalit, and then subdivisions within that. So Vishwanath Thakur summarizes that book, and he summarizes Ujmal Leelamani Kiran. It's really like a Kiran. If you want to print the entire book is even smaller than Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. You can print that on a pamphlet. A pamphlet of this much size, you can print the whole book. That much small it is. And it really requires genius to summarize the entire book of Rupa Goswami in such a short form, without missing any point. So Ujmal Leelamani Kiran, this is Ujmal Leelamani Kiran. The point is, this book sets the prayojana. Now Vishwanath Thakur wrote these three books, and why we like these three books? Because by these three books, this book Ujmal Leelamani Kiran, it will help you to understand prayojan. And here at the end of the book, Ujmal Leelamani Kiran, Vishwanath Thakur writes a verse there. At the end of each book he writes one verse, and he writes a verse here, Anadhita Vyakarana Charana Pravano Harer Jano Yasmat Ujmal Leelamani Kiran Tad Alokya. Ujmal Leelamani Kiran Tad Alokya Bhavatu. What he says is, he says why I am writing this book in that last verse, and he says Anadita Vyakaranas, people who don't understand Sanskrit grammar, who are not so expert at Sanskrit, because to read Sanskrit of Rupa Goswami you need to have a lot of Sanskrit background. He uses technical words, he uses a lot of alankars, in his book. He uses a lot of technical rules of grammar. It's very difficult to understand. So he says people who don't understand Sanskrit grammar, but charana pravano harer jano yasmat, but who are eager to serve Krishna. What about them? These people are 99% people are like that. So he says, for them, Ujma Lila Mani Kiran, I am writing this book by Tad Alokya Bhavatu, so that the path back to Godhead becomes Tad Alokya. It becomes very clear. Very clear. The goal of life becomes very clear. Radha Dasyam. They don't get confused. They don't get confused. They might not have so much details as that in the book Ujma Lila Mani, but they will not get confused and the goal will become very clear and they will attain Krishna. That's, by writing this shloka, Vishwanath Thakur gives his blessings also to the reader. And then you come Kana. What is Kana? Sanatan Goswami has written a book, Brihad Bhagavatamrit Kana. Brihad Bhagavatamrit. And Rupa Goswami then concised that book and wrote Laghu Bhagavatamrit, because Brihad Bhagavatamrit is Brihad, it's very big. Part 1, Part 2, the story of Narad Muni, the story of Gop Kumar. And then Laghu Bhagavatamrit. In Brihad Bhagavatamrit there are two subjects. Part 1 is talking about Krishna, Part 1 or Part 2. So one part is talking about Krishna and his avatars, and the second part is talking about Krishna's devotees. Which devotees? The gradation of devotees leading up to the highest devotee, Srimati Radharani. So Rupa Goswami summarizes that in Laghu. Laghu means small. Laghu Bhagavatamrit. And he gives Part 1, Part 2. But that book also becomes big. If not big, but at least small size book. Some 70-80 pages, small size. But then Vishwanath Thakur writes Laghu Bhagavatamrit Kana. He again summarizes Laghu Bhagavatamrit. But Rupa Goswami's style is terse and difficult. So he writes Bhagavatamrit Kana. And what this book is talking about? This book is talking about Sambandha. Bhagavatamrit Kana. And Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, which Vishwanath Thakur summarizes, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu we have been talking about, that book describes Abhidhay. Now at the end of Bhagavatamrit Kana, Vishwanath Thakur ends the book with one verse, and he says, Anadita Vyakarana Charana Prabhano Harer Jano Yasmat Bhagavat Amrit Kana Mani Kanchanam Eva Anusuyataha. And he says this, why I am writing this book? For people who don't know Sanskrit grammar properly, but they want to serve Krishna, they are eager to serve Krishna. For them I am writing this book, Bhagavatamrit Kana, so that this book is Mani Kanchana. This book is like diamonds on golden ornament. And it will help you to develop your relationship with Krishna and his devotees, Sambandha. And Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, that is Abhidhay. And at the end of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, Vishwanath Thakur again writes this verse, Anadita Vyakarana Charana Pravano Harer Jano Yasmat Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu To Bindu Rupena. He says, I am writing this book for people who are not so expert at Sanskrit grammar, but they are very eager to serve Krishna. So why I am writing this book? Bindu Rupena, so that they can stay as a drop of water or drop of dust or a speck of dust at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. This is called Abhidhay. So these three books sets Prayojan, Ujma Lila Mani Kiran, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, Abhidhay, and Bhagavatamrit Kana, Sambandha. It sets this. And Vishwanath Thakur himself indicates this point, what the function of these books and why he is writing these books. And the interesting thing is, you might not be able to read Ujma Lila Mani in this life probably. It's a very esoteric book. There's so many things about gopis and this and that. But you can read Ujma Lila Mani Kiran. Because the style of presentation of Vishwanath Thakur is, he has put all the main important points without going into the esoteric parts. So you can read that. You can also read Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu without getting confused Because if you read Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it's so complex and confusing and you will not be able to take out the essence. So without getting confused, you can read Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, and without actually going so without going in so much details, you can know your relationship with Krishna and devotees by reading Bhagavatamrita Kana. Because to understand a relationship with Krishna, if you read Bhagavatam, Leela Avatar, Manmanta Avatar, Yuga Avatar, Guna Avatar, and then many things about Krishna, Prabhas, Prakash, and then Vaibhav, if you read, you can go mad. So if you have ever read teachings of Lord Chaitanya by Srila Prabhupada, probably you'll go nuts. People can't understand that. Well, so here is a book, Bhagavatamrita Kana. You can easily understand all these things without going into details. That's why these three books go together. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, Kiran, Bindu, Kana, A teen niye Vaishnava Pana. And that is a wealth of devotees. I have discussed Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, which is Abhidhay. Perhaps you can read Kiran and Kana on your. It's a small book, you can read them if you want. But if you want to know Gaudiya Vaishnavism in nutshell, okay, tell me in half an hour what is Gaudiya Vaishnavism, complete. Okay, we can tell you. Buy these three books, three pamphlets, read them, and this is Gaudiya Vaishnava. Okay, goodbye. Thank you very much. Finish. And you don't miss anything. Okay, did you not tell me something? Did you miss some point? No. Or take these three books, read, and you will understand. And we don't miss anything. That's the beauty of these three books. Three jewels, three baskets, or our trinity is these three books. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vishnu Thakur ki jai.